I think we've done this enough times now that I can skip the basic explanations, so... It's not very long before we find a door. This door closes after a set time and it can open both ways. This means we can use it to get any angle we want. We want to be just slightly to the right of due west. Don't ask how I know that's west, just roll with it. We will keep that angle for the rest of the chapter. Some electricity blocks our path. We can flip a switch to turn the electricity off, but to reach that switch, we will have to break a vent, and with the angle that we've chosen, that's not going to be possible. But never doubt Half-Life 1, baby. Since we can't look up, it's important that we avoid barnacles. Another set of doors allows us to change our angle however we want, but we don't need them. The game gives us grenades exactly when we needed them. If we didn't have a grenade for this part, it would be run over. When the train turns, we will turn with it. We can avoid turning with the train by jumping. Ultimately, all this means is that we'll continue looking west.
Oh no, you're one of... Allow me to treat that injury. It appears that you need medical attention right away. Let's try this.
Once again, we find a door that we can use to change our angle to whatever we want. Explosions work very weirdly in Half-Life, but the short of it is we have to drop this satchel over here for it to actually blow up the vent. intentionally take a lot of damage for a trick I'll do later. Again, Half-Life explosions are incredibly whack, so yeah, that's a thing. We have to actually place a grenade down here for it to actually blow up the boxes. I intentionally damaged myself to 25 health, which means the scientist will heal me to 75. We need all the health we can get for the next part. Normally you would just climb up this rope, but since we can't look up or down, ropes are pretty useless. If you swing in a circle, you can gain some height. We need to not have any suit power because the suit will absorb force from the satchel.
I'm going to stay here and wait for...
Corporal Shepard, we've been left behind as well. We're on to your position now.
And then we find another door that we can use to get any angle we want. As long as this doesn't happen. It is slow, but we can backtrack to this door to change our angle if we really need to. We can get the Black Ops to break a vent for us by simply letting them know we're there. Thanks.
This mission is way beyond. Clear this area. Did you see that one, Corporal? Situation is looking pretty grim. That's what I'm talking about.
This train follows the same principles as that other one, so we can use it to get whatever angle we want.
was beasts. Would you like to operate that transporter?
Thank you for releasing me.
To push the button for the teleporter, we have to reach it from behind. Observe how a master of no mouse movement confronts his enemies. In order to escape, we have to break a grating that's above us. It just so happens that satchels are buoyant. The Displacer cannon's secondary fire teleports the user to somewhere on Zen, and somewhere on Zen there will be a portal back to Earth. The place you return to on Earth will be one of several different hand-picked locations in the map. The location you end up at is simply the one that was closest to you when you teleported to Zen. Each destination in the map has its own angle that it will put you at when used, and this one here is perfect. This will be very useful, but it does come at the cost of 60 uranium ammo, so it does need to be used very smartly. This trick allows us to avoid having to press 6 buttons. We go down to the trash compactor room, not to do the intended thing, but to get some more ammo and change our angle. This chapter has rotating light bulbs. The variable that stores where you were when you teleported to Zen is not stored in saves. If you make and load a save while in Zen, you will end up at the destination closest to the map's origin. This lets us skip a very hard part of this map.
Clear this area!
We can hide from the helicopter in the sky ocean. When you are underwater, enemies above water cannot see you. A door in the final map lets us get any angle we want. However, between that door and the gene worm is one final door which can only be opened by pushing a button. Normally after opening this door you would perform a 180 to actually face the gene worm. We can't do that though, so these are the angles that we'll have to work with, being limited by the range of angles from which we can push that button. With those angles, neither laser gun is able to hit the eyes. Using techniques I won't get into, I figured out how to hit each eye with the corresponding laser gun, but then you need to hit them in the, belly button, and this part is on a timer, so you need to do it very quickly after you hit the second eye. I spent several days trying to figure out what to do. I considered throwing a grenade into the belly button, but every attempt I tried just didn't work out. The belly button hitbox is unreasonably small and from many angles is being blocked by other much larger hitboxes. The very limited amount of space that we have to work with is also not helping. Note that it's not enough to just do any amount of damage, it has to be 70 damage. I think this idea is feasible, but probably TAS only. I considered using an NPC to jam the door open. Every time the gene worm stops flashing his belly button, either by you hitting it for 70 damage or running out the belly button timer, he spawns a shock trooper. I considered using that shock trooper to jam the door. This didn't work because I just couldn't manage to get him to go through the doorway. A shock roach seems like the perfect tool, but they die after a short time and apparently their corpses will always fade away. There is one more NPC that could do it. Him. Yes, him. The thing about getting him over to that door is that you have to push him against the wind in this room, but I did manage to figure out how to do that, at least with mouse movement. So with him in the doorway, well, the door will stay open, but he's too big and now he's blocking the doorway. Obviously, you could kill him and his corpse would keep the door open, but for whatever reason I just didn't think about that at the time, I guess, and I just didn't really want to push him against the wind anyway, cause that was hell on earth. And for a reason I'll explain later, that might not have been a very watertight plan anyway. So then you might consider jamming it with a pushable object instead. Well, no, none of them will work. Not because of this raised bit on the floor, we can deal with that, but because the door is too narrow. When colliding with world geometry, pushable objects don't use their normal collision. They use an alternative hitbox which can only be one of a few different sizes, and all of the pushable objects on this map use a hitbox which is as big as this box. This means they are all too wide to fit in the doorway, and we're talking too wide by like 1 unit of distance. It is not possible to bring a pushable from another map. This is a technical limitation of the game. Alright, well, I do have one more plan. There is a displacer destination in this room here. The angle that it puts you at is perfect for hitting both one of the eyes and the belly button. It is of course no help for the other eye. So the idea is that we would first use the door to change our angle so that we can hit this eye, again using techniques. And then we would teleport to Zen and come back and hit this eye and the belly button in quick succession. The problem is, that's a cycle that you have to repeat 4 times. To teleport 4 times, we would need 240 uranium ammo, and we can only carry 100 at any time. So where are we going to find 140 more uranium ammo? First, we start over in Foxtrot uniform right after we did that last teleport to Zen. We pick up 2 uranium boxes that we did not get the first time, meaning we'll be at 80 ammo. Then in the second map of the package, we'll find a room that has 3 ammo boxes. We only need 1 to get up to 100 ammo, meaning we'll have 2 left over. And 2 in the next map, and another 2 in the next map, and 1 more after that. That's 140 ammo. The problem is, we'll have to boost up here and here 3 separate times, and at least once up here. This boost is so small that I presumed it to be a non-issue. Also, the helicopter that we were hiding from before is scripted to die when we go down into the parking lot section of this map, so that's also no longer a problem. The first boost is also not a problem because you can always replenish your health at the healing pool next to the gene worm. The second boost, which comes immediately after the first, is where the trouble lies. Almost all of your existing health will be used on the first boost, and between the first and second boost, there is only 80 health to pick up. 80 divided by 3 is 26. At 26 health, you are not getting up here. Remember, the portion of damage absorbed by the suit does not impart any force, so the only way suit power might help here is to allow us to get a more upward angle from our boost. My theory was that I could play on an older version of the game where you can still stand on trip mines and then climb up with trip mines. The problem is I would need more than 5 trip mines to climb all the way up, so my idea was that I would initially boost up part of the way and then while I'm out in the wilderness somewhere I find some more trip mines to complete the path. I was 99% ready to go with this plan, and then I realized the obvious thing. Oh,